Part 2. The importance of zero risk in nature. First, a comment on using the expression zero risk in this article. In theory, absolute zero risk scenarios should technically not be possible to achieve in this universe. For example, theoretically, there is a chance that all the air molecules in a room could clump together in one corner of the room, hindering you from breathing. It is just extremely unlikely to happen. For all practical purposes, it will never happen. But the chance is not absolute zero for it to happen. It might be more correct to use the term low risk instead of zero risk scenarios. However, the main idea behind the zero risk term is to describe a critical risk situation in the struggle for survival in which nature knows there are no going back. The third article posits that the mechanism observed in the famous wave-particle duality experiment in quantum physics originally has been designed by a higher intelligence to detect zero-risk strategies in any emerging life forms, such as life on Earth. If nature has an ego and did not stop zero-risk strategies, it would end up losing in its own game, like a casino owner would. This is the so-called casino rationale, which will be brought up several times in the article. The casino rationale compares a casino owner's situation with nature's ego, basically saying that if a casino owner would not respond to zero-risk strategies among its gamblers that manage to cheat, it would be catastrophic for the casino. This zero-risk view is based on the suggestion that there exists a hidden ego in nature, an ego which we cannot see. But if it exists, it would probably be interested in stopping zero-risk strategies. Since to nature allowing zero-risk strategies would be similar to having a casino which allowed gamblers that were able to turn the odds against the casino. In many ways, this casino rationale makes up the foundation of this article, giving nature the motive to implement a zero-risk detection mechanism in its design. The significance of zero-risk signaling in the Paradise Machine model. To the Paradise Machine model, a received signal of zero risk in a life form could mean many things. Not only that the emerging life form is about to become a threat, but probably also signals other facts about the life form. For example, that the life form in question is about to become a multiplanetary species, such as ours. The Paradise Machine model proposes that the critical stage of achieving zero risk is a significant component of the machine. From analyzing its design, the golden rule seems to be this: the only life form that is allowed to obtain zero-risk strategies in the struggle for survival is nature herself. Furthermore, I suggest that humans on Earth already have arrived at this critical stage and already have activated nature's zero-risk detection mechanism. Although the initial zero-risk situation, which triggered the zero-risk signal, may not immediately be a threat to nature, but if neglected, it would ultimately result in nature being overpowered by the emerging life form. The first few individuals that learned how to achieve zero risk would probably first dominate Earth, but eventually they would come for nature herself, imagining an ego in nature. Nature's fear of being dominated by these nascent life forms constitutes the zero-risk argument. And by analyzing the machine's design, the impression is that it is something serious at stake in the game. This desperation in its design suggests that it is more at stake than just to live or to die. As if life forms that achieve zero risk is likened by nature to evil traits, something that wants to hurt nature's ego. It does not need to be so, but seen through the lens of fourth law, nature seems to do anything in its power to detect and to control zero-risk achievers in any emerging life form in the universe. See also the zero-risk argument in Part 4. Nature, in this article referred to as the Paradise Machine, seems to be designed with a zero-risk strategy on its own, not ever to be dominated by what it conceives as evil traits. Hence, making herself being the only entity in the universe which can uphold a zero-risk strategy. Consequently, as soon as the machine detects a zero-risk strategy in an emerging life form, nature, which now means the machine, should respond. The important question raised in this article, therefore, is: why is nature so concerned of being dominated by an emerging life form? Is it more at stake for nature's ego than considered in the casino rationale, the future business of the casino, basically to live or die? The suggested answer to the desperation in the machine's design is gruesome. However, at the same time, this idea gives us a chance to get to know nature better, closer discussed in Part 3. In conclusion, the Paradise Machine, nature, seemed to obey a principle of justice, and also to have soft sides like forgiveness, and even to be generous. As the only rule seems to be, as long as you have not tried to dominate me by achieving zero risk, you are fine. By analyzing the design in the suggested machine version of nature, it is as if nature shows an understanding of all the struggles emerging life forms, such as ours, has been through. And that nature even planned to reward those who have not achieved zero-risk strategies by placing them in the eternal paradise state, almost to say, sorry for the inconvenience. This contradictory to the gruesome production method the machine might use indicates an interesting point, which is discussed further in Part 3. That the gruesome way of producing the paradise state described in Part 3 is something the designers behind the machine would rather not use. It could, for example, be a curse within the universal system from whomever created the universe in the first place. A curse the designer of the Paradise Machine has been forced to deal with. Making the best out of the curse would perhaps be to implement a zero-risk detection mechanism in its design and stay idle to observe from a distance, basically listening to a zero-risk signal. But eventually make up for the troubles endured by the innocents by rewarding them the eternal paradise state, upholding a principle of justice in the machine's design. Furthermore, according to this version of the Paradise Machine model, the only individuals who can end up in the gruesome part of the machine should be those whom the machine can prove have planned similar actions towards nature's ego and thereby to the innocence. This is suggested to be one of the intended purpose behind the zero-risk detection mechanism in nature and is thoroughly discussed in Part 3. This proposed design adheres to a principle of justice, aligning with the fourth law that posits nature as being fundamentally good. The alternative explanation is that there is no curse, just that the advanced life forms, which has designed the machine, has a different set of moral standards than us, also discussed in Part 3. Suggesting that they don't see the moralistic problem, as long as they can mathematically prove the solution to be fair, by using a zero-risk detection mechanism. The important conclusion of this discussion in Part 3 is that nature should be a good machine, as predicted by fourth law. Furthermore, that the chances of nature being designed by an evil form of intelligence is highly unlikely based on the presented logics. The second law of thermodynamics is considered the prime mover. The fourth law posits a direct correlation between energy context, the order of chaos, and the risk factors that influence the outcome of good or evil traits. This natural equilibrium is governed by the second law of thermodynamics, which serves as the prime mover in fourth law, reflecting the finite energy concept in the universe. The fourth law of thermodynamics, EU equals 0 equals paradise, presented in this article series, is an extension to the already established second law of thermodynamics, EU seeking zero. If this article series version of a fourth law is valid, it should have worked on all life forms that ever to have existed in the universe. This includes the very first life forms, which in theory could have started to evolve as soon as about 15 billion years ago. These life forms should be what Enrico Fermi referred to as the advanced life forms that should be all over the universe. Hence his famous paradox, where are they? Why don't we see them? They should be here by now. According to fourth law, it is theorized that the advanced life forms Enrico addressed may be much closer to the paradisiacal state, predicted in fourth law, than humans are, as they should have evolved along the projected path in fourth law for as much as 15 billion years, figure 7. This was brought up in the second article from 2011. Basically saying that these more complex life forms should be of higher concentration of love and intelligence on the expense of mass energy. Similarly, it is suggested that life on Earth is destined to follow the same evolutionary trajectory, continuing to increase our already obtained concentration of love and intelligence. As argued in the third article, should an emerging life form such as ours begin to accumulate malevolent traits and thereby activate the zero-risk detection mechanism, the Paradise Machine should stop these new type of life form based on the casino owner rationale. As if nature equates willingness of taking zero risk with willingness of doing evil. When the energy content of the universe reaches zero, EU equals zero, the whole universe should be on the third form 100% love and intelligence, The fourth law foretells that this state will for us be experienced as what we would call a state of paradise. To the universe, it will probably be experienced as just another energy state, EU equals 0. This will also make sure that with all mass energy transformed into love and intelligence, the paradise state will not revert to the earlier energy mass form, because these energy forms, mass energy, is at a higher universal energy state. One can say that the mass energy on the third form is at a more stable energy form, not yet observed by humans, but indirectly observed in the workings of dark energy, universal expansion, as suggested in the second article, which also explains why dark energy seemed to accumulate by not going back to its former higher mass energy state.